Start with Palantir. Founded out of 9/11, you've won business from the pandemic. You've won business from the war in Ukraine. Does Palantir need chaos to thrive and grow? Does it need that kind of environment?
Look, we build products that shine under war conditions. So the more businesses experience turbulence, the more the world experiences pandemics and unfortunately war, the more the tools you need actually have to work. Our competition is jargon, PowerPoints, fraudulent products, and these products just disappear when you have economic crisis,
right.
You have a pandemic, you have a war, and the stuff we've been building over 20 years shines. And you see this, you saw this in the counterterrorism context, you saw it in the pandemic context as discussed here.
Well, a lot of that though is public sector, isn't it? Government. I think what's interesting about FoundryCon while we're here is a lot of those in attendance, the deals you announced, they're actually private sector.
Well, our theory, and it's being proven, is exactly the same thing happens in the commercial sector. So if you have all these data architecture, which is basically 50 products that are churning your data, pleasuring your org, but providing no real alpha. When times get bad, your supply chain gets broken, you have to deal with a different kind of workforce, you're drilling for oil under regulatory conditions that you find to be new and harsh, you have to track emissions, you have to rebuild your supply chain. The old products just don't work.
One of the pieces of news is Sompo expanding its relationship with you, a $50 million extension, but it's already a client. My question is, how reliant is Palantir on the private sector right now on an existing cluster of clients growing what they do with you rather than new customers?
Well, we like both. You know, we really like the older customers because we've shown it's worked, and we can say, look, we're creating $1 billion in value. We obviously you should expand our software offering. We like new customers. I mean, the unvarnished version is Palantir is growing like a weed in the US, which is adaptive and embraces new technologies, and we are embracing that.
Can I ask you a mechanical question?
Yeah.
Your target rate for 30% annual growth by 2025, mechanical question, but the new deals you're announcing today, evidence that you're on track for that?
My lawyers literally shoot me if I answer questions like that, but if you look at what's going on in the world, radical disruption, our products are succeeding. And the US market, part of the reason I can't answer that question is you'd have to say, well, how we did Q4. Our US market growth is really impressive.
I want to go back to something you were talking about on stage, where you've been active, the war in Ukraine being one example, but also healthcare. And when you sit down yourself, because I know you've done a lot of the deals with public sector in the past 20 years, but also private sector, how do you get across that data competency is an advantage in warfare, in espionage, or in healthcare?
It really depends. In the Ukrainian context, they had talked to the most important clandestine service and military in the world. They unanimously recommended Palantir, and they're very technical. So then you have newer clients. At this stage, my basic thing I tell clients, partners is like, look, everyone will tell you the same stuff. It all looks the same. Why don't you just see our stuff in action or talk to people who've used the software? You know, if you're going to buy the software off of PowerPoint, don't buy us. You want to talk to someone who's used our software, you'll buy us.
I know you're proud of your engineering team. You lead engineering, right? But you've also done a lot on the sales side. I noticed that when you've grown the sales team, it's been more on the private sector focus. Is that strategy working for you?
It's definitely working in the US.
And elsewhere?
And elsewhere, we're at the beginning. Look, we didn't have salespeople until a couple of years ago, so a lot of this is figuring out how we can do this. I think we've kind of gotten pretty close to cracking the nut in the US, and then we have to expand it outside the US.
You like working with the government, the US government.
Well, I'm proud to work with the US government.
But you don't sell to China or operate in China or with Chinese companies. Is that a sort of corporate patriotism, or is there no demand there for you?
Well, for 20 years, when it was popular and investors thought it was crucial to work in China, we've said the same thing. There's no distinction between public and private entities there. Our products are actually also weapons of war, and we're not going to sell them directly or indirectly to adversaries. This made us enormously controversial in Silicon Valley and still makes us controversial in Silicon Valley. And quite frankly, it's one of the decisions I'm most proud of. We are a company whose most important purpose is to power the West to even higher heights in the commercial and in the government context. And we've done this in anti-terror, in the context of the pandemic, in the context of war, in the context of data protection. And you really can't do that if you're going to also transfer those technologies indirectly or directly to your adversaries, and we've never done it.